Thank you. So as you've heard, my name is Paul, and my colleague here is
Rebecca.
Okay. And we'll be talking a little bit about our strategies on what we do in teaching organic chemistry class. And there's lots and lots of information. We hear about students freaking out in an organic chemistry class, a class of about 700 students enrollment, and that can really be a little bit annoying to the students. So our work as educators is trying to encourage the students and have fun while they learn organic chemistry. So a little bit of our organic chemistry class. Most of our students are pre-health students that are taking this class after general chemistry, which enrollment is getting close to 1,000. And we are co-teaching together. We have 3 sections, each of about 250, or close to that. And this has been our enrollment since fall 2013, pretty much been going up. The fall is a little larger than the spring because we have additional about 80 students who are biomedical engineering. They only need it for 1 semester. So the fall is organic chemistry 1, and the spring is organic chemistry 2. Now, we put up a little survey to have an idea of what is the composition of our students. And as you can see, most of them are bio or psych or neuroscience major. And they say that they are taking organic chemistry because they need it. Biochemistry or chemistry major is around 16%. And some of them say that it's a major that is not listed above, about 5%. And others were smaller percentage. So essentially, pre-med who are bio, psych, neuroscience, chemistry, biochemistry major. Now, I like to show this here, which is indicative of what students can remember after 2 weeks of class. And organic chemistry, there's lots and lots of structures, chemical reactions, and students, when they see a slide or information that is being put up there, they already get stressed on how much they're able to remember in class. And I think I agree with the fact that students tend to remember 90% of what they say or do. So part of our strategy as teaching colleagues is trying to involve strategies that would help students remember what they do or say. I have this sayings from Bill Gates, and he said, the worst class I ever took was introductory organic chemistry. The instructor just kept giving specific chemical reactions without explaining the principle behind them. It was just a bunch of memorization, and it seemed totally irrelevant because I wasn't learning in that larger sense. So I would imagine that that's a discussion that is ongoing when students meet in their halls of residence or out there partying. And Bill Gates also said, it's the only class that I didn't get an A. So you can imagine the much frustrations that go alongside with that. Everything else was A, but organic chemistry, C+. So based on all this information, we tend to create ways of how we can make organic chemistry a little more interesting. And I think we're getting positive responses from students. They start by saying, I don't know what I'll do. I just need an A, but I'm afraid of the process. But at the end of the class, they like, I got an A, surprising A. I don't know how it happened, but we tend to believe that it's the strategies that we tend to involve. These are the problems associated with large lecture class. Imagine a class of 250 students. You're just that tiny professor in front. Sometimes the structures of molecules that you're drawing cannot be visibly seen at the back of the lecture. So we tend to deal with large lecture space, isolation of students who tend to care less. Group discussion sizes tend to also be larger, and we don't get that close interaction with students. Imagine in a discussion session of about an hour and a half, you may not, as a professor, have enough time to go through each and every group. And that's also a logistical challenge. Sage on stage, where the instructor appear impersonal and very remote. But as professors, our goals are to make the class seem smaller, encourage students to participate, make themselves, or our professors will make ourselves accessible to students, and hopefully help them get the good grades. These are the strategies that we involve in trying to encourage students learn organic chemistry. And we'll be talking about each one of them. CLT, which is Center of Learning and Teaching Studio. Office hours, beside the traditional way we do, we try to make them a little bit more interesting. Remotely controlled tablets, and I'll also explain a little bit about that. Panopto or Camtasia videos, our discussion sessions, undergraduate TAs, a very great resource that we have, and my colleague will be talking about it, and surveys at the end or at the beginning of the class. That's our largest space. Okay, it takes about 453 students, and if we were to do it in a class of 700, first of all, it won't fit. Second off is that it's a little overwhelming, lots of students, and imagine if a student wanted to ask a question, you can only take maybe 2 or 3 in a session, and therefore it's a little uncomfortable, both for the students and the professors as well. So, our first point that we're going to be talking about is the Center for Learning and Teaching Studio. We call it Teaching Lab, and it's a new facility that CLT is offering for us, and our Department of Chemistry has taken full advantage of that, and we even have a colleague who will be speaking on Friday regarding the utilization of an online office hour session. But for us in organic chemistry, we tend to do a lot of writing. In fact, our principle to our students is pen and paper is the way to go, right? So the facility is fitted with smart boards. We have projector screens, and best of for us is the erasable wall, right? So we tend to draw a lot of structures, and we allow students to freely go to the walls and solve problems, write organic reactions, and try to collaboratively deal with it together as a student, and as a professor, you'll just be moving around with them as they do the same. So this is one of the sessions that we had, and they're pretty much comfortable with it. We've learned that when students just sit down, they feel like you are the in charge. This center is actually a free space where we have mobile chairs and round tables, high chairs if they want to sit out there, or pull those chairs and get into a round table, and they tend to feel that they're in control. And one thing also that works very well, including our office hour sessions, is whenever students stand up, they feel like they are in charge, moving around, talking among themselves, calling you as a professor and asking you questions. At the end of the day, they're like, we are loving organic chemistry. And that's what we always want to hear as a result. So that's pretty much the full space, which has all these smart boards, and right here has large screen that you can roll it down, which has an overhead projector that you can, as well as professor, write it out. And the high tables right at the back here, small tables there, and chairs that they can all be moved around. Actually, in the fall, they're expanding, getting more space, which I think is also a good thing for us. Those are other spaces again. Students are very busy, engaged in such sessions. In fact, last spring, I always had an overflow. Too many students show up because they're like, we are loving it, and I had to chase some of them away or move to a larger space. And I guess that's what's prompting the Center for Learning and Teaching to construct even larger spaces for that. All right, we also have some small boards, and they can work individually or a group of 1, 2, 3, and so forth, okay? Office hours is our other strategy. We have tons and tons of office hours with my colleague. I think each one of us average about 10, and we have both group sessions and individual walk-in. If they have one-on-one, or they want to talk to us on one-on-one, we also provide for that. And what we are doing for our office hour is a little different. The professor, again, is not in charge. So what we do, if we have questions, we put it out there, and the students themselves, they don't have to be seated. We have all those kind of walls around, and they stand and take charge. And we found it to be really, really working out. It's a blend of, as I mentioned, group or individual sessions. Students volunteer to solve the problems. They are even asking their colleagues, what do you think about my answer? They are not even asking us much because we want the whole discussion to be the student-centered. Excellent opportunity for students to ask follow-up questions from class, and we can also spot areas where the students missed a concept or they're struggling with, and that's when we come in. Okay, we asked some questions regarding this, how the students perceive the office hour, and we said in addition to the work that you did on your own, and going to class, you also attend office hours and you try to see how many times they do. Once or twice a week, about 32% in the beginning, in the week prior to exams, because that's when students tend to do the most. At the beginning of the semester, they all are relaxed. They don't want to come in, but we try to prompt them way in advance. But clearly, you can see those who try to attend, because they also have a busy schedule, it's close to 50%. And that's pretty impressive with a class of about 700 students. If office hours had to be availed in your living room, we were prompting them to see what will be their response. Maybe they like their comfort zones, and I think CLT tends to cover that in a way because they come in a relaxed environment, chairs that recline back and they are relaxed and they can move around. And we said, if they were to be offered in your living room, would you attend regularly? And 56% said yes, right? I think they still have a challenge as to taking that initiative and coming forth and looking for help with that regard. Now, another technique that we use, or as personally I use, is use of tablets that are wirelessly controlled, in a sense that we have a little device that you can hook to your desktop computer, and with your tablet, you can actually link it and you can walk around in class. So imagine if you are in that 450 student class, you can actually be able to move around. One thing that students tend to do is if they feel like you're remote in the classroom, they tend to start getting distracted and they do their own things, especially organic chemistry. Okay, their concentration span is so narrow. So with this, or with that device, which it's available, I have it with me if you are willing to have a discussion with me and look at it, is my tablet. I'm able to move around in class, and I can still control whatever I have right there, draw structures, flip from one form of presentation to the other, and it's this little device here, which has an HDMI or USB port, and you remotely control your tablet. And I have found that to really be a very nice resource. Okay? And again, the tablet works great for us because you can write on the same slide, explaining things that you did not have as a written text, drawing stuff, highlighting stuff, and so forth. And it's working great for my case. All right, I would allow my colleague to proceed from here since she has done a lot of.
My dream has come true. So we have pretty different styles. I like to go de novo when I do lectures in organic chemistry because I don't want to get tired of what I'm saying, and I want students to be able to work along. But along with that is I want to be in the classroom as low tech as I can be. And so while Paul uses the tablet and can move around the room, I'm often up front writing on paper, moving at the speed that they move at. And over the years, I said, gee, it would be nice to have this as a resource, this style of writing things out so students can see how to write this out, because it's as though organic chemistry is a handwriting class, an art class, a geometry class, and a chemistry class, and a philosophy class all rolled into one. And so to be able to take all that in, it's a layered process. And so we, in the classroom, I don't want to be bothered with the technology. I've tried to be bothered with it, and I was very successful at being very bothered with it. But outside the classroom, I can calmly walk through everything that we did in the class and have it nicely recorded with not my face present, but the writing appearing on the page. And this is really a great resource for many students because they can go to the lecture and filter through and find that area that they don't understand. And they can see it as many times as they want. Or if they want a refresher, they can just put it up to 2 times speed. I record in Camtasia. It's really nice for me, except for the whole development process. The processing takes a while, so there's no last-minute work to be done in my case. But this year, we were piloting Panopto as a platform for the university, and it was run through Blackboard, and I do not personally know whether it has to be run through Blackboard, but it was so easy for me to upload videos. I'd just go to the Panopto, I'd say add new media, and it would immediately transfer my files. It took a moment to transfer them, and it took up to half an hour to process them, but I didn't have to be there watching it to process them. And then the students could just go to the Panopto tab in Blackboard and access the videos easily. So it was very easy to do. I was able to upload a lot of pre-existing videos all at once. Really, really nice. The students liked it. I had used a direct Blackboard feed for videos in the year prior, and there was a lot of head knocking going on. But so many students used it, and let's see, I did not, yeah, so many students used it. That's a pretty good amount. And so I'm pretty happy with the usefulness level of that. And then students believe that they had higher grades because of being able to review the material with a focus on what we covered in class rather than the broader focus that the book provides. All right. We're at like, whatever, 2/3, I would guess. 2/3 thought it was pretty easy or somewhat easy, and then I always provide an out if they didn't ever use the video. And a lot of them would recommend the videos. Makes me happy that they would recommend them. I had students who swore by them. I'm a little worried about that personally. I think that a diverse means of learning is the way to go with organic, but not everybody has my learning style. So, so does this go directly into, oh, cool. So this is what is this, lecture hall 14? Mm-hmm. You'd think that I teach there twice a day. You should know that that's 14. So this is the last day of class, and we're doing some work that's going to help them do well on the final. And so you can see this really engaged look in the classroom because students are here working along. But before the end of the semester, particularly early in the semester, when students aren't so close to that prize, their focus on what's important is a little diffuse. And so we use discussion exercises to help bring their focus in on what's important. The discussion exercises are based off of the stated learning objectives for each of the modules of the course. And so they get about 45 minutes to work in an open environment with discussion exercises, and it's a developmental exercise. They develop some skills that they can utilize on exams. And so many students find that the discussion exercises are pretty useful. And this one's not going to work out for here. And so students work in class and outside of class with their friends. Okay. In our discussions, to make it seem far less like a classroom, we utilize manpower. We utilize undergraduate TAs, and these undergraduate teaching assistants are students who were excellent students in their class, and have outgoing personalities and are well organized. So we get about 35 or 40 TAs every semester from a large pool of applicants. And we work with them to come up with ways of explaining to students instead of just handing an answer. And so helping them work with the Socratic method with students. Right? And undergraduate TAs, they're responsible for running their own discussion room. They have, they work in teams of about 12 or 13, and they collect and organize the discussion work. They grade the discussion work. The discussion work is a small enough portion of the overall grade that they are allowed to do that. They come and they proctor exam. They help organize, when we're up to 700 students, organization of papers, and this is a paper and pencil course, is really key. And really gives them an insight, a chance to share their insights with students in the class. Right. So students enjoy working with the undergraduate TAs, and they largely agree that they give good advice. Down here, where people disagree, this is a lot of students who really want more advice than they are allowed to receive, kind of get disappointed with that. Are you gonna do this?
Yeah, so essentially, the strategies we use for the survey is we prompt students or post questions in survey to see whether they are understanding material or not. Like, for example, a concept that comes into my mind is we have nucleophiles and electrophiles, which is a language of organic chemistry. And we ask questions like, what do you think, or did you understand the concept of nucleophile? And then the choices given there prompts them to say, okay, I don't understand it, now it's my time to go and read it, all right? So that's one way we found that the surveys prompt them, and areas where they're feeling a little shaky, then they go and review those questions. So we ask questions at the start of the semester to see where they are, mid to see, okay, are they getting it or we are losing them, and also at the end of the semester to see whether they're really moving on with the material that we want them to understand. And we challenge them to go read and find help in areas where they're struggling with, and that's when we invite them to office hours or those discussion sessions. We prompt questions, and this is an example of a question that asks them whether they understand the concept of nucleophile. So for example, for the question of nucleophile and ranking questions, did you have the tendency to recognize a trend but evaluate backwards? And you'll see the distributions here says never, 24, 1 to 2 times, 59, and clearly you can see, yeah. Then if they say I'm a little bit shaky in this point, then they go and review the material right after that. If you're asked about your learning style, would you consider yourself to be a visual learner, auditory learner, a combination of both, or I've never thought of it? And again, I like the last one here because it prompts them that you better start learning or asking yourself which technique best fits you. And again, between my colleague and I, we are so flexible that we ask our students to go into either one of our lectures or our office hours based on our different teaching styles again. And we found that to really work for us in our case. So in summary, I think our undergraduate teaching assistants are very integral, or forms a very integral part in stimulating active learning environment. We select the best of the best, so they are actually aware of the material that we are presenting in class, and they don't lose them in the process. Otherwise, you would find students who are skipping discussion sessions just because they're waiting for us to come in. So pretty much discussions can actually go without us being there together with them. And the advice helps bridge the gap between students during discussion, because they also understand what they are struggling with the most, because most of them just graduated from that class and the material is still very fresh on them. And both students and the UGTA benefit from that experience, because they are also, most of them are prepping for MCATs or all those qualifying exams, and they find that they really need the material to keep rolling, so they really actively learn as well in the process. So our ideal outcome is a happy engagement to students to really work towards their potential. And here is one of our success stories. The student wasn't that good in chemistry, but she really loved chemistry. Okay? Whenever we meet her in the corridors, it's, I miss chemistry. All right, so that is the end, and I didn't want to end without acknowledging the people who have contributed in the success of programs that we run in chemistry, organic chemistry, and that's our department. My teaching colleague, Rebecca. Alexa is seated right at the back there. She's in charge of instructional teaching labs as well as teaching lectures, and she's really been very supportive with that regard. Center for Learning and Teaching, that's where it provides us with a teaching lab, and that's where we use for our office hour sessions. Thank you for your attention.
I don't capture while I'm lecturing to the class because I just don't think I can. Oh, sorry. Thank you. I can't do both of those things or all three of those things at once and not have a curse word slip out. So I do Camtasia capture on a Surface, and I make a whole bunch of PowerPoints that have the titles, sometimes with some critical graphics that I don't want to take the time to replicate, and then I sit and write when I'm doing that. But at our university, all sorts of video capture goes on. I have a colleague right now who's doing with Panopto direct capture, and she said, yeah, it works really well. They've given me a camera, but I'm using my laptop, and she says the only unfortunate part of that is that the students who are on the online version of the course see up my nose.
So the talk that we're going to have on Friday, Benton can use the same CLT room and he captured it live. So as he's doing the discussion, he captured the whole video, and he's going to talk about that. He edited afterwards to take any unfortunate comment or something out, but it's captured live.
Yes.
What did you guys use for online discussions?
Online discussions.
Yeah, Ben's talking about
Yeah, that's
Yes,
that's the
yes.
Friday talk.
Yeah.
Echo 360.
Again, offered by CLT, Center for Learning at Echo 360,
For
which
online
is
discussions?
online office hours.
Oh, do you?
Oh, we don't do collaborative writing discussions because it would necessitate people being able to draw in the discussion, and that is kind of a few years off in easy technology for
Although
students to
I
use.
I teach a bridging course for general chemistry and organic chemistry, and I use collaborative. The challenge we have with chemistry in general, or specifically organic, is drawing structures. So you can hear the students, but what I use it as a discussion board collaborative is I'm able to write through and they're able to see what I'm drawing or writing there. But I can hear them if they can speak back. So
if a student had a question, they would just email it to you?
there's a chat window, they can, but again, if they have structures they want to show me, that's the challenge that we have.
Can they share their screen and then in turn draw for everybody else?
I haven't tested that myself. I think that's a limitation that it has, I think. Yeah. Yes?
So the CLT sessions, those are optional sessions that students can come to. They're not like a set part of the class.
So for the office hours, it's optional.
Okay.
Yes, and when I'm teaching a small class, then I have my class right in there. So it's actually a classroom for myself.
But do you have like structured days where they're not meeting in lecture and you're meeting in small groups, or you're
Yes.
talking-
So yeah, for the small groups, it's optional.
So our office hours, so our discussion, everybody goes at the same time because part of discussion is setting aside a common time for everyone to have the same exam. And so our discussion exercises are all at the same time, and we're split amongst many large lecture spaces, and in Gen Chem, it's many more than that all over campus, so that we're down to a manageable size where students can spread out and their facilitators can be, the TAs can be with them. Yeah.
The students are required to attend.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that's not the, but that's not the CLT.
That's different. No, for discussions, that's not the CLT.
Okay, CLT
Yeah.
is just sort of the office hours.
Yeah.
optional
Yes.
students can come to,
Yeah.
but that's not a,
Yes.
gotcha.
But it's a regular offering every week.
Yes.
Yes.
We got about a minute left, so.
Okay, yeah, I'll be quick. So it's very, very interesting. I think that my main question is like, how do you engage students to do all these things? Because like, it's fantastic, like small groups and like people, like students interacting and explaining things to each other and so like, it's like heaven. But how do you do that? Because like, it's so difficult to engage students.
It's the professional motivation. Most of the students are early in their potential journey of potentially being some sort of professional, and those, we have students fighting to get to be TAs so that they can explain to students. Or if they don't do that, they go work for the tutoring center because they want to be strong so that they can go into their upper level courses stronger. And the students want to be in discussion because they want to do well. They see that rubric, they have these points. They're individually not worth that much, but as a total, they're worth quite a bit. And they learn that if they work together effectively, they can garner almost all the points. And working together effectively does not garner you almost all the points on an exam. You can study really hard, you can do everything that you want, that you're supposed to, walk into an exam and bomb it. So it's discussion and online homework, which we didn't even talk about. These are kind of guarantors of a base salary. And then exams are bonuses that go on it. And we work really hard to make a rubric that doesn't overly penalize people who aren't very good at it, because this is a, what do you call it? Since we grade by hand, this is a subjective course, and we've learned that if somebody's doing poorly on an exam, they tend to do even more poorly because of subjective grading, and those doing well do better because of subjective grading. So we try to remove a lot of that by having a base of activities that count for effort and merit, and then we add to that.
So basically, part of the grades depend on that, so that's
Yeah,
how you
yeah, yeah.
make them participate.
But they love it. There's nothing students love more than worksheets.
All right, let's thank Ron and Rebecca.
Thank you.